Thank you all so much for having us. And Coach, thank you. This is an honor and a privilege to be here with you all today.
Right, thank you.
It was really a lot of fun. I was fascinated behind the curtain earlier in the green room watching all of you all talk and reminisce. Which one of these guys gave you the most trouble?
Well, none of these fellows gave me any trouble. If you look like their record, they gave me a lot of fun.
Well, you had some great memories there, and some of them we'd like to talk about. But I'd like to hear from your former players a little bit about you, because we've heard the descriptions so much tonight. Kareem, I'd like to ask you, because when you first came to UCLA, you were in great demand. You probably could have gone anywhere, but you specifically wanted to come to UCLA to play for Coach Wooden. Why? What was it that you were seeking?
Well, at that time, it had mainly to do with the game of basketball. I was never a big. I was tall, but I wasn't a big guy, and people kind of thought that the prototypical center had to be a bruiser. I came out of high school weighing about 225, 230 pounds. But in watching UCLA play, they emphasized speed and defense and agility, and those were all my strong suits. So I thought I could fit in with the way that they played, and no one would ask me to gain 50 pounds and try to turn myself into Will Chamberlain. I had learned a lot from watching Bill Russell, and those of you who remember watching him play, he wasn't a bruiser, but he got the job done. So I had my own ideas about where my future, my best interests lie in terms of where I played college basketball, and I decided to come to UCLA.
Coach, do you remember what you thought when you saw this tall gentleman walk into the room?
I was amazed. And, when I found out that he was truly interested in UCLA, it was more than amazement. It was pleasure, and to see the size. And I thought that adding him to the players that we had, we could in the future do pretty well, and we did.
Keith, you've said that the real competition was that the coach was preparing you for life. And I've heard that so much tonight, that it wasn't really about basketball. At what point did you realize, because I'm sure, as Michael just said, at 18, 19 years old, you weren't focused on that, but at what point did you realize he was preparing you for life?
After we got away from Coach Wooden and all of us went into professional basketball and started thinking about, I wish I had paid attention when he was talking back then, because I think that some of the things he said were pretty good. When you talk about life, I think life, what I think about is as we grow and mature, and I think about adversity and things that happen in our lives, and tough times. And, back in 1996, my wife and I had a visitor one day that came to tell us that my oldest daughter had passed away that day. And it was, needless to say, it was a shock of shocks, and one of the most difficult days of our lives. But as I look back and thinking about just Coach Wooden used to carry this card that his father had given him when he was a youngster, about 13 or 14 years old, and he said, Coach, he said, Johnny, if you follow these principles, you'll be just fine in life. And a couple of them that were very important to me at that time were, one of them says, drink deeply from good books, especially the Bible. Build a shelter against a rainy day with faith in God. And pray for guidance and counsel, and give thanks for your blessings each day. And those were the things that kept my wife and I going, and gave us hope, because of these little things that he had written on there, just about going to God and to His Word, the Bible, and faith in Him, and going back all the way back to when he had put this together. He said, his pyramid, back 14 years it took him to put that together, and the principles that he lived by, and this little 7-point creed at that point was very, very important in our lives.
And I get the impression that there's been this relationship that has continued too. Jamaal, what are your earliest memories about Coach, though, in terms of what he did mean? Because you all say that you recognized later that he was a mentor. Was he a tough taskmaster, though, just more than anything else when you were playing for him?
He was a very tough taskmaster. By the time I got there, these esteemed gentlemen, Keith Erickson and Kareem, had set the bar so high that we were just honored to even be invited to be in the program. And I know when Coach recruited me, he was probably the only coach that didn't promise me the moon. And I know my mother just really had profound respect for that and for him. So when I was in the program, I just truly, I knew I was with a basketball genius. That spoke for itself. I had no idea what a remarkable human being I was around, but I just trusted him. I totally trusted him, and whatever he said do, I did it the best I could with a sense of urgency. And I just trusted the man. I trusted the program. I trusted what these guys had done. And to this day, I don't believe what we accomplished, but it really doesn't matter because what he stood for, it really wasn't about winning games.
Michael talked about how he cared about you as individuals, not as just about ball players. Would you agree with that?
Well, yeah, I did, and how I hit that. I had moments. I was from a small town, Deborah, and sometimes I just was overwhelmed with being in L.A., being at UCLA, and I would go to his office sometimes, and I guess he knew why I was there. I didn't even know why I was there. I was totally lost. And he would just start reciting this poetry, and I would just sit there flabbergasted. And he would just go on and on and on and on and on and on. And then I'd leave. And so I didn't get it then, but I knew it was something really, really different. You know? And so I got a sense that, yeah, like Mike said, who's also one of my idols, this man, I mean, we didn't get it, but he really cared. I mean, you know, we intuitively understood that he deeply cared.
Did you worry, Kareem, if you stepped out of line about, you know, how he would come down on you? Because some of you talked about how if you weren't doing what you were supposed to do, you wouldn't play ball, or, you know, if you were not ready, the bus would leave you. The discipline was very important.
Discipline, yeah, it absolutely was very important, but I had already been through the mill growing up with my dad, who was a police officer. So Coach Wooden was a very kindly old man as far as I was concerned. He was patient, he was forgiving, and if I made a decent effort, I knew I'd be okay. Plus, you know, I was an English major, and Coach Wooden was the English teacher. So we'd be on the road. I could ask him questions about papers that I had to do.
A little extra tutoring, huh?
The correct use of semicolon or colon. Things of that nature that most people find very arcane, that Coach Wooden knew all about it. And we could talk about things that had nothing to do with basketball that really impressed me and made me feel a lot closer to him, because here was somebody who had been through it all and was willing to share his knowledge and wisdom. It definitely had a great effect on me.
One of the things that I read is that this sense of racial harmony, Coach, on the team was something that you were known for. That one of your players said, Coach doesn't see color, he sees ball players. Did you make a conscious effort to try to create this diverse environment, or was that something that was just intuitive for you?
I'd say the latter, yes, more intuitive. That I didn't make it. Especially I wanted it to work itself out more than trying to force it in some way or another. Furthermore, I never believed in physical punishment I believed, and I got that from my father. He was a gentle man, yet he could take the most fractious horses and just gentlemen in no time. Dogs that scare me to death, they'd be wagging their tail. And just his means of dealing with, I and my three brothers were not physical. Not that he never did, but that was not his method. And he felt you earned it, no problem. You accepted it with no problem at all. That's not answering any question.
It was a.
I'd like to add something to what Coach has to say, especially about your question about racial issues. When Coach was at Indiana State, he had a very good team there. They were invited to the NAIA tournament in Kansas City. And the people from the tournament called Coach at Indiana State and said, hey, you got a great team, why don't you come to the tournament? Coach said, oh, we'd be very interested in coming. The people that called him said, well, look, you have a black ball player on your team, you can't bring him. And Coach said, oh, is that correct? Well, we won't be coming. He hung the phone up. The next year, his team did even better and had a better team. And he got a call from the NAIA people saying, come to Kansas City for the tournament. And we still have the same issues there with your black ball players. Coach said, well, we won't be coming. And at that point, they said, no, it's okay. You can bring your whole team. Coach said, okay, in that case, we'll be coming. And Coach has never mentioned this. He's never put this out there. And the reason for that is he just feels that he was doing what he was supposed to be doing. And he doesn't want any reward or any credit for it or any praise. That was what he was supposed to be doing, and that's what he did. And it's that type of integrity and that type of compassion for his players that's why we're up here on this dais.
Keith, what was the...
Let me add something about one of my players, something that happened that might give you a chuckle. Bill Walton. I could have mentioned several things which might give you, but I didn't permit long hair or beards. And Bill's sophomore year, we had gone undefeated, won the national championship. And practice starts the next year on October the 15th. You can have picture day and meet with the press on the 14th, but you can't have actual practice on the 15th. Well, he showed up for picture day, not permissible at all. And I was there with the managers issuing the uniforms, put in the game uniforms, and I said, no, Bill. He said, why not? I said, you know why not, Bill? And he said, you don't have the right to tell me how to wear my hair or my facial hair. I said, you're absolutely right, Bill. I don't have that right. However, I do have the right to determine who's going to play for me. I'm going to miss you. I said, I'm going to miss you. He took off in a half hour or so. He'd been down the village and got shaved and a haircut.
And then he played.
Yes.
Keith, were the rest of you all aware of these kinds of stories and that he really would put his foot down? I mean, you had a situation. He said to you earlier, remember Kansas City?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Coach Wooden. We have to be very delicate here with what we say.
Telling tales out of school, right?
That's right. Coach Wooden didn't swear. And we had a player on our team, Walt Hazard, who was from Philadelphia and was the ball handler. And he used to go between his legs and behind his back, and he would throw passes that would sail 3 rows into the stands. And Coach wouldn't swear, but he would blow that whistle, and when he said, goodness gracious sakes alive, Walter, one more time and you're out of here, we knew we were in big trouble when that was coming.
So don't cross the coast.
Absolutely.
What was the formula, Jamaal? Why was it, though? Because by today's standards, a man who had these kinds of principles would be considered maybe a little low-key, a little soft. What was it, though, about having those principles that led him to such success and led all of you to have such success, especially with a team that had not been that successful before him?
Well, I'd say a man with those principles today would be considered corny, but I think Kareem hit it. You know, the integrity. He didn't do it to, and Kareem, I'm glad you shared that story. I'd never heard that story.
Oh.
But it resonates with me because it was just something very genuine and remarkably simple and consistent. And you know, it's really just hard to describe. That's why I use the word corny, because you know, he was never into self-promotion. He was never worried about the media. I mean, we were fortunate to win a lot of games, and he never made an issue of it. He just always asked that we be able to look at ourselves in the mirror and have satisfaction or peace of mind, referring to the pyramid, that we did our best. We gave it our all. And you know, he's very intense. I mean, early on in practice, I thought he was the most critical. He got your attention. And he kind of tapered down as the season progressed. But just you know, I really can't describe it other than just a really rare, genuine quality about him that even when you disagreed, you just, you know, you just had, and then we were all kids, so, you know, we weren't parents and all that. I mean, but you just had a lot of respect. You just had a lot of respect for him.
And even in your personal lives, too, you and Kareem both converted to Islam later in life. And you had a talk with Coach about your decision and changing your name. And by the way, you still refer to him as Lewis, don't you, Coach?
What is it?
You still refer to Kareem as Lewis?
Well, most of I try to remember not to, but most of the time I say.
But you had a conversation with him about it, didn't
yes,
you?
I see Lewis, and he understands. For years it was Lewis, and to suddenly change it was not that easy. I know that doesn't mean I had any objections or anything of that. Criticism, no, not at all. I wanted my players to somehow know that I loved them. And that doesn't mean that I liked them. You know, there's a difference between love and likeness. I hoped I liked them all, but I know I loved them all, regardless of what happened between us or anything. I loved them. I'm not like it, but I loved them.
And clearly they all feel that.
Well, I hope they did. They didn't all feel that, I'm sure, but
these gentlemen I definitely noticed tonight seemed to feel that.
I think so.
When they approached you tonight, the love was definitely there. It was apparent.